Hello and welcome to Creative Momentum with Meg Dunley. This episode is part of the first season of my podcast, the Chateau season, and these interviews that are in this season were all recorded while I was at the Chateau d'Orquebeau in France in July 2025. Today's episode is with Laura Wagner, who is from New York. She was born in Brooklyn and raised on Long Island, and she's been a Manhattan resident for the last 30 years plus. I shared a writing studio with Laura at the residency, and she was my next table neighbour, and I really enjoyed her company. I loved our interview because I just love listening to her talk, but also because she talks about how inspiration can strike in the night or while walking down the street, and she just is learning to listen to that and stop and write when the need be. She talks about her creative process in here, how one word sparked a story about springtime in New York, and that became one of her more flowery yet descriptive pieces. She discusses what she loves most about writing and the ability to express herself quietly without interruption, without phones beeping, just letting her words flow on the page. I hope you enjoy this episode. I really love chatting with Laura and getting to know her while at the Chateau, and I hope you enjoy this. Hi Laura.
Hi Meg.
Can you just begin by introducing yourself with your name and where you're from?
Laura Wagner from New York, New York. Born in Brooklyn, raised on Long Island, and for the past 30 plus years, a Manhattan resident.
Beautiful, beautiful. Can you tell me what is your creative discipline? What do you do creatively?
I don't have a discipline. And for me, inspiration hits sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes walking down, one of the busy city streets, I'll see a word and that word becomes my inspiration. How
do you express your creativity?
Through writing.
Through writing.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me more about this process where you might say a word or, tell me what your process is, like once you've
Okay, so if I'll hear a word, for example, several years ago, there was some mention of beautification. And many, many years ago, we had a first lady in the United States named Lady Bird Johnson, who was married to Lyndon Johnson. And she created an entire program for the beautification of America, which those years was still pretty beautiful. And so from that word, I created this story about springtime in New York. And it turned into, I think, one of my more flowery but very descriptive stories. And, that's how it happens. And sometimes, as I said, in the middle of the night, I'll think of something that will spark the interest to create, a verbal written, scratch this. A written piece on, this idea. I'll expand on it. And that's what I've loved about writing, is that I have had so many opportunities to express myself quietly, without interruption, without a cell phone beeping. Just, it flows. And it's been, for me, the best form of expression.
So, once you've got your idea and you're working on that, do you put it aside after you've worked on it for a bit and then come back to it? Like, what's that process
always,
like for you?
Almost always. I don't think I've ever submitted a story that was written and then left the computer. It's always, which is a good lesson in life, is to think about something before you send it out. And that's the process for me. I edit, I re-edit. I have an editor at the publication that I've submitted my column to, and I very often at this point hear her voice. So I make corrections knowing what she would say, which has been a great tool.
That's a great little kind of thing to keep in the back of your mind. Who or what or where do you get your creative inspiration from?
Such a variety of places. My children, my family, where I live, the surrounding boroughs of New York. There are 5 boroughs in New York, so most of my stories focus on the different boroughs and the different neighborhoods within the boroughs. That's food for lots and lots of, of stories.
So location is really
Location
important
is
to you?
very, very important.
Yeah.
Because so many neighborhoods, unbeknownst to many people who are not familiar with New York, have such a variety of personalities. There are sections in New York that are literally a few blocks from another section in New York that are a complete antithesis. One can be a hip, gritty kind of place to live, and a few blocks away could be a very upscale, trendy community. So that's the beauty of New York City, is that within a small framework, you have such a variety of options.
So are you like treading the footpath or the pavement, whatever you want to call it? We call it footpath.
We call it pavement.
Yeah. So are you treading the pavement, looking for inspiration for?
Very often. That's a great question. And very often it comes from walking down Madison Avenue, and I'll notice something. There was, it was right around Halloween, and there was a dog walker with a dog that was dressed up as a scarecrow. So, things like that happen pretty much in a big city. Yeah. I can't imagine seeing something like that in a small suburb. There are many private schools, elementary schools in New York, and these little adorable children walk linked by a strap, almost the way you would walk a dog. So you would see sometimes up to 20 kids walking, not necessarily hand in hand, but linked by this strap. And they're all dressed in their little uniforms, and it's just a sight to behold. It's really unusual, and I think significant in big cities, because in a suburb, the mother would drive the child to school. They would be taken by a school bus, but that's not the case in the city. And that's been a cause for stories of how, children grow up in a big city differently than they would, on Long Island or any of the surrounding suburbs.
Yeah, I love that. And so things that catch your eye.
What very often catches my eye, because I've been told that I'm observant, and I know that I am. So I might see something that someone else may not see. I am very, very, very inspired by fashion. And in New York, there are a lot of very fashionable people, men and women. And sometimes I'll just see someone dressed in something so outrageous that it's the cause of an article. Or a written story.
Yeah. And I've noticed your observation skills here too, with some of the things that you've written and that you talk about. Tell me about your creative routine. Do you have a routine? If you do, what is it? What do you find it helpful to get yourself to do the work?
My inspiration comes at a variety of times. As I said a few minutes ago, I could wake up in the middle of the night, get out of bed, go to my desk and write something. It could be a sentence, go back to bed. And in the morning, I'll, be re-inspired. But I don't have a routine like many people do, and mainly many writers. Many of my friends have encouraged me to get up and write for 2 hours straight and then do my day. But I can't do that because, it's forced and it doesn't feel natural. But when I'm inspired, which could happen every day for a week or every other week, there's no routine.
Yeah.
But when I am, I could really shoot out a story quickly.
So if you had a deadline, do you then enforce a routine?
Well, that's also a great question, because I have had deadlines. And sometimes, surprisingly, I work best under pressure, because I know that I have to produce. So that's been somewhat of a shot in my arm to, create. But I don't have any formal process that I follow every day. Maybe after this 3 weeks, I may start, because I have a few new ideas for what I'd like to, create in the future.
Have you ever used like self-imposed deadlines to get yourself to finish things?
No, very seldom. Unless, I'm working on something that I put down, like in the middle of a story. That also doesn't happen often, but when it does, I want to get back to it. I have no unfinished work. So that's one thing that I guess I should be happy about. But most of my stories have a beginning, a middle, an end. And some of them, which have not been published, in my opinion, are some of the best things I've written. So that the 3 weeks at the Chateau has created this idea to put those stories together and call it New York Stories, or, something that relates to what I write about.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
If you were to have a conversation with someone who's at the beginning of their creative journey, whatever it is that they're creating, what would be the pearl or pearls of wisdom that you would want to impart on them?
Okay. I would encourage anyone. I started really late in life. I've always enjoyed writing, but I never took myself seriously. I would say that if there is this burning desire to tell a story, to start by keeping a journal, and just jotting down ideas. And when you feel more comfortable with what you've written, then to explore, the possibility of putting it into a story and seeing how that sounds. My writing, and I've said this to many people, I'll go public with it now, my writing has been my best voice. I feel that I write far better, I express myself far better on paper than I do verbally. So I would say to a beginner or someone starting out, take yourself seriously. Don't call it a hobby, call it something that you may turn into a life's work.
I love that piece of wisdom. Yeah. Treat it seriously. Thank you so much for your time, Laura.
My pleasure. Meg, can I tell the world how much I've enjoyed getting to know you?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
As your neighbor.
Yeah.
And just part of this wonderful community of artists.
It's been a privilege
rare
to get
treat.
To know you.
Yeah, really. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're now neighbours. We'll be neighbours across the ocean.
But we'll see each other again. I really feel that.
We will. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Laura Wagner. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Laura, and I love her accent. I really miss listening to her. I had her next to me for 3 weeks, and I miss hearing her talk. So it was lovely hearing her back again, and I love all the things that she shared in that interview. Things like, walking down the busy street can bring up a single word to be her muse, or the story about hearing a word referencing Lady Bird Johnson, and creating an entire piece about springtime in New York, and how it's just that great reminder for all of us that creativity can emerge from the smallest little spark. So never give up on thinking that you've run out of ideas, because the ideas are everywhere around you. What resonates most is what she loves about writing, that opportunity to express herself. And so maybe this is your timely reminder, especially at this kind of busy, noisy time of year, that creativity does need some space and silence and freedom to unfold. And so maybe in this week, you could think about how you could find just a moment of quiet solitude, just to observe and listen and see what you can pick up. I was speaking with my people at Writing Momentum this morning about how I am trying to kind of microdose a bit of that at the moment, where I just step outside and I'll watch a bee burrow into a flower, or a ladybird crawl around the pollen on a daisy. And just those moments just give me enough to take that breath and keep going. Keep breathing, and until next time, keep building on your own creative momentum.